Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this special evening exploring one of the Mediterranean's best-kept secrets, the island of Formentera. So, welcome. Come on in. We'll be kicking off in a couple of minutes. And so make yourself comfortable. I hope on this very dreary evening in the UK that you're going to share some warmth tonight as we hear all about Formentera. Do say hello in the chat box. We'd love to know where everybody's joining us from this evening. And so straight away, Peter from Bowden. Welcome, Peter. So, yes, do make yourself comfortable. Let's start dreaming of travel. It feels like it's getting close, doesn't it? And I know we all want to find some places that we can go to this year. So hello, everybody. Lovely to hear from you all in the chat box. I see we've got, slightly chilly in Cumbria. Yes, down in Windsor, it's very wet and dark. Sunny London. Oh, rainy London. Somebody else has put sunny London, though. Scott from Toronto, welcome. And lovely to hear from you. David from Portugal. Marion from Cumbria. Christopher from Epsom again, welcome. And we got somebody from Estonia. Is that Katri? Welcome to Edmund from Costa del Glasgow. But it's raining there. Hi, Suki, West London. Hello, Mary in Dublin. And everybody's pouring in now. I just saw that we had somebody else from Windsor, a cold West Wales. Yeah. To Christian from Denmark, welcome. Laura and Chinna. Vicky in Florida. Oh, I bet it's better weather there. Hi to Steve in Scotland. Kiki in Tunbridge Wells. So somebody else in Windsor. Got a little posse in Windsor tonight because that's where I am. Hello to Paul and the Isle of Man. Very blowy there. Yes, it's a bit dreary today, isn't it? Somebody else in Canada. Welcome, Ernst. And Yvonne from the Peak District, where it is sunny. Oh, gosh, I'm very jealous. Hi, Rosalind. Hi, David. Hi, Ian. Hi, Barbara from Washington State, USA. Annie from Gower, beautiful place in Wales. Alison in Cumbria. And Tim in Burnham Beaches, that's not far from here. Melanie in Wokingham. Welcome, welcome. Make yourself comfortable. We will be starting in a moment. And as I say, we're going to be hearing about Formentera this evening. I'm very embarrassed because I know very little about it. I've never been. So I'm really looking forward to this too. And as we can see, we've already got some lovely images up of Formentera to get us in the mood. And if somebody's in a dull West Cliff on Sea, well, yes, this is why we're dreaming of places. Look at that, blue sea and pristine beaches. That's what we want. And I know tonight we're going to be hearing more about these pristine beaches, about the crystal clear waters, about the diving opportunities, Formentera's delicious cuisine and its network of green routes. So it's going to be better than Potter's Bar. Sorry, Kyriakos, I don't know how to pronounce your name properly, but yes, I'm sure Potter's Bar is lovely, but I think we're going to find out that Formentera is the place to be this year. Okay, so without further ado, I think what I should probably do is introduce you to the wonderful speakers we've got tonight, the great panel. If you don't know me, I'm Lynn Hughes, the founding editor of Wanderlust. And as I say, I've just been joined by some great experts tonight, so really looking forward to this. So we're going to be hearing from Carlos Bernus. Carlos is the manager of the Formentera Tourist Board. So, Carlos, do you want to wave? So, hey, hello. Carlos.
Hi.
And although Carlos is originally from Barcelona, he moved to Formentera in 2006 and has lived there ever since. And in his spare time, Carlos loves to head out and explore the island with a particular love for the island's water sports and the local cuisine, which I know we're going to hear a lot about. Carlos recommends trying the locally sourced honey and olive oil. Collitor's favourite season for exploring Formentera is spring, and when the island is showered in flowers and very peaceful. That sounds wonderful. Now, sadly, we can't be there with you, obviously, at the moment, Carlos, but let's hope we can plan for next spring. We're also going to be hearing from Maya Boyd. Hey, Maya. May is a widely published travel writer and the author of the best-selling coffee table book Ibiza Bohemia, published by Asaline. May has lived in Ibiza for almost a decade, and she says her father was one of the island's original hippies. So I'm sure you've got so many stories to tell, Maya. Maya spent many months exploring Formentera. She's written about the island and its history extensively for magazines and newspapers, and is deeply connected to the fuss-free, laid-back nature side of life on the island. And last but not least, we have Manosan Felix. Hey, Malou. Such a privilege to have you here, because Malou is an award-winning photographer and biologist. And Malou holds a degree in biology and has been a diver since 1981, having completed 12,000 dives across all of the world's oceans and across 5 continents. During university, Malou was introduced to underwater photography, and this has been his passion ever since. So as a biologist with a camera, he spends his time capturing and sharing the undisturbed beauty of the oceans and raising awareness of its conservation. So Malou spends as much time as possible in nature. He embarks on about 300 dives a year. And so I know that Malou is going to be taking us underwater this evening. And I know we're going to see why Formentera is considered so important in the world and has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its oceans. So really looking forward to that. After we've heard from each of the speakers, we will have a Q&A. Please do send your questions during the evening in the chat box. And we may be, able to answer a few of them as we go along, but we'll save most of them for the end. But do keep them coming in. That would be really great. I see as well that a few people have commented already that they have been to Formentera. And if so, and if you've got some little tips or whatever, then do feel free to share them. And we'll also have Rosie from Wanderlust in the chat box as well. So I think just to get ourselves in the mood, let's see a short video about Formentera.
Every day brings new light to help us on our way. Always taking my breath, whether sun or rain. The wind will carry us over that horizon we see is getting closer.
Oh dear. I want to be riding one of those horses down the beach and into the ocean. That looked really, really good. So lots to look forward, I think, to this evening. So I'm going to welcome back Carlos from the tourist board. And Carlos, I think you're going to give us an introduction to the island and its wonders. So over to you.
That's it. It's my pleasure. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us for this presentation of the small island, beautiful island of Formentera. Let's see, next slide. Formentera is located in the Mediterranean Sea. We belong to the Balearic archipelago in Spain, and together with Ibiza, it made the Pitiusic Islands, and it is located just 2 nautical miles in the south of Ibiza, and it can only be reached by boat. That is to say, we have to fly from all main airports in the UK to Ibiza Island, and then we take a small ferry boat that takes more or less 30 minutes, half an hour, to arrive to Formentera. And well, as soon as you arrive to Formentera, you realize why sometimes the island is so called the best Spain's kept secret, as we have very, very different attractions that I'm pleased to share with you today. Places of interest such as our small towns. We have 6 of them in Formentera, La Sabina Harbor, which is the only way of entrance and the main entrance of the island. San Francesc, which is the inland, and it is the capital town of Formentera, where every day there are hippie markets and plenty of cultural life all year round. Moreover, from April until October, which is our main season. Espujols in the north can be the most touristic village of Formentera, with one of the most beautiful urban beaches of the island. Such and there you can find plenty of different services, and the only 2 small discos in the island, as the rest is very peaceful and enjoying nature and beautiful landscapes. Another place of interest could be Escalo de San Agustín, which is a very small village of fishermen that up to date it still work as a fisherman place to go, and where you can try local cuisine and plenty of different local dishes such as bullied Pepe, ensalada payesa, and so on. San Ferran, another inland part of the island that is a bit unknown sometimes, but it's related to nightlife and art and craft markets that are held there all weekdays except Wednesdays and Sunday, where you can go to visit the handicraft market of La Mola, where in the east part of the island. And the Pilar de la Mola is the main town close to this market that can also be an excuse to go there, and was an inspiration for Jules Verne, a book inspired in La Mola, specifically in the Lighthouse of La Mola. Our beautiful white sand beaches, as you have seen in the video, this is not for Photoshop, this is for real. We have this kind of white sand beaches, pristine seas. We have a unique visibility beneath the sea of up to 50 meters, which is unique in the world, and it's great for all nautical activities and water sports, and of course for snorkeling or diving. Getting around the island. Formentera is almost totally flat. It has just 2 plateaus, 192 meters above the sea level, which is La Mola in the eastern part of the island, and in the south we have Cap de Barbaria, where you can find another beautiful lighthouse, which is perfect to go to at sunset. The island from east to west has just 20 kilometers length, which is great news for those that want to practice all kind of activities, sports, and of course, if you want to move around by electrical vehicles or by bike. And of course, we have a regular bus line that goes through all the island, and a network of 32 green routes that I will later on explain a little bit more about that. What else? these green routes. It's more than 130 kilometers of network, which aim is to avoid main road as soon as we want to practice this kind of running, sportive activities, and of course moving around by bike is the perfect option to go to one point to another, and of course to get to know the most unknown part of Formentera, which is inland, the countryside, where rural life and you can find plenty of different places of interest. And we have all these kind of rules, and this information can be downloaded from our website, which is formentera.es, and where you can see, as we have now on the screen, you have the length, the difficulty, and of course, which kind of links with the rest of the network or the rest of the network, where to move around and how to arrive to different points of interest. Formentera has been inhabited for the last 4,000 years, which is a long time. We have agricultural heritage. It's from the Romans, Phoenicians, Carthaginians, and different places where you can visit our heritage. We are working right now in the recovery in 3 dimensions of 2 of the main ones, which could be the megalithic sepulchre, which is called Sepulcro Megalítico de Canacosta, which is dated around 2000 before Christus, and the sultry industry, which was the only way of income previous to the arrival of tourism in the island. And right now, it's our only way of income. Our economical motor is just the touristic industry. Of course, as you can see in the pictures, we have towers, lighthouses, and our folklore has a lot of reminiscences of these cultures that have been in Formentera, and you can see it in the main festivities and different towns such as San Francisco, the Alcarm, which is in July, related to fishermen, and many others all year round, where you can see this kind of folklorical, cultural, and all the heritage that is in Formentera. Where to sleep? Formentera has many different places to stay, such as more than 150 accommodation options, such as more hotels, villas, apartments. Most of them are managed by local families, which is great because they aim to have the best services, and they are making refurbishment every year and trying to improve and to give the best service. And it's also a perfect way to get to know local people, and you can choose from a very small apartment by the sea, just for 2, up to houses of 16 persons, which is big families or small groups, and of course from 3 stars up to 5-star hotels that are in all the island. In the village we have spoken previously of Espujols, but also in the rest parts of the island, very close to the sea, with beautiful, amazing views, such as in Calasaona or in the southern coast of Migjorn. All these kind of lodgements you can easily be found through the internet. Of course, you can download all the information and a list all of them in formentera.es. And well, from my part, that's it. I hope you will enjoy the rest of the presentation. And thanks so much for joining us again. Thank you.
Hi, Carlos. Oh, thank you so much for that. What a great introduction. And I don't think you mentioned what the population of the island is. How many people do live there?
Yes, we have 12,000 inhabitants. We sometimes can be between 35, 40,000 during July and August, which is our main season. But well, that is to say, we are like a small village in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea.
Like a small village. I like that. And I see somebody actually asked about how busy does it get in the spring. So I know you yourself said spring's a great time to visit. So if somebody was there in April or May, what would it be like then? Is it nice and quiet?
Well, if you like making a walk through the countryside, the peaceful, Well, the island is very, as you said, is very quiet during spring, but it's starting to our touristic sector and all the industry is starting from April, May. In a normal year, it could be until October, even November, because, as I said, we have more than 300 sunny days per year, an average temperature of 16, 18 degrees Celsius, which is great all year round. And well, that's the point that I'm living here for the last 15 years, which is, well, amazing.
Absolutely, and that sounds like a great temperature for certainly the Brits amongst us, because we like that kind of temperature as well, mild weather. Okay, sounds lovely. Well, thank you so much, Carlos, and we'll see you later for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to welcome back Maya. Hi, Maya.
Hello.
Oh,
Hi.
welcome. And I know, obviously, you're really into the lifestyle and the food of Formentera. So look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Thanks very much, Lynn. And thank you for having me and tuning in, everyone. It's a real treat to be able to talk about Formentera. I obviously travel a lot with my job, and it is my favorite place on the planet. So, yeah, it's a real treat to be asked to be a spokesperson for the evening. I think one thing that really is a standout thing for me is how family-friendly Formentera is. And I don't mean that in terms of sort of there being lots of activities or clubs or, you know, sort of Club Med type way. I mean, the island is so laid back. It's so safe. It's this real lovely fusion of nature and beaches and laid back little villages. As you can see from my slide here, my 3 children absolutely adore it there. I myself have been going since my teens. And you find yourself sort of padding along these boardwalks with the scent of pine rising up through the air, and wherever you go you can see the sea, which is really fantastic for children. There's barely a place on the island where you can't see the sea because it's so narrow in the middle. It's only 1 kilometer across, sea on both sides. And there's so much for them to do in terms of, I know Carlos just mentioned the megalithic ruins, but you could be driving down a little road and then all of a sudden you veer off to a tiny cove, or you stop at a little roadside shop selling fruit and vegetables, or you see a sign for some Roman ruins, or there's a lake and there's some flamingos, and it's just, there's a huge amount for children. And unlike neighboring islands, there's no party scene whatsoever. There's no sort of noise. There are no groups of people in an overwhelming fashion. It's very, very laid back. And I think obviously that stems from the island's great history as a stop-off point on the sort of Ibiza, Marrakesh, Goa, Kabul hippie trail in the 1960s and 70s, when the island really was an absolute hotspot for people who were seeking out that alternative, laid-back way of life. I think Formentera potentially represented a really primitive ideal for a lot of people. And, you know, you had people like Pink Floyd rocked up there. They recorded their seminal album soundtrack to the film More on the island. You know, Chris Rea was living there. Bob Marley lived in a windmill there. You've got Bob Dylan there. This particular slide that you can see here is of a surf shack called Acapulco in a little village of La Mola, little fishing village, and it's got that really laid back sort of rock up in your little car. That's my little beach buggy there. You know, have a beer out on the terrace. There might be some little barefoot children running around. You're as likely to bump into a sort of aging hippie there as you are a sort of, you know, young hip tourist. And that's another great thing about Formentera, is it attracts a really interesting mix of people. So you've got, as I said, you've got your old timers, your aging hippies, your sort of 70s relics. You've got a lot of really clued up young travel mag readers, you know, who know it's the place to go at the moment, who are really looking for that off button in terms of travel, you know, really sort of elemental travel, as it were. You know, you want to really see and feel and hear and touch and taste the place. And then you've got nature lovers, people hiking, people walking. Carlos mentioned all the green routes there. It's the most phenomenal place for nature lovers. It's fantastic bird watching if that's your thing, and they get the flamingos every year. away from Africa. It's just sensational. There's a picture here on this slide of one of the lighthouses. There are two main lighthouses in Formentera. There's the lighthouse at Cap de Barbaria, and then there is the Faro de la Mola, which is the one that so entranced Jules Verne when he was writing. But you can drive out to these places. The Faro de la Mola in particular, it's a very long, straight road out there. And this real profound sense of peace. It's like the island is completely suspended in another time. Carlos mentioned the amount of visitors you can have in summer, but there are pockets of the island where you'd think you were the only person there. It really is something else. And I think if you're into exploring and food, I certainly am. Formentera's got a really exciting food scene. It packs a lot of bang for its buck for such a small island. It's a hard island. It's a tough island. You know, it's dry. It's got very little fresh water. It's rocky. It's sun-baked. It's cold and windy in the winter, and yet it's really fruitful in terms of the produce that comes from there. The name actually, Formentera, comes from the Roman Frumentarum, which means the island of grain, or the fruitful island. And you've got these fantastic shops at the side of the road. It could be a little local supermarket, and you'll have the most fantastic tomatoes you've ever seen, or you'll just have some beautiful aubergine or some cucumber, and it's all sort of still covered in sand and dust, and the little old lady will weigh it out for you in a basket, and you can really taste the earth. And I think that's one of the reasons why Formentera's slow food revolution has been such a hit. They've actually put together this lovely map, which you can see now, which it's not exhaustive, but it highlights some fantastic places around the island where you can really appreciate what's grown there. And it might be really specific, like, for example, it might be tomatoes from Ses Clotades, or it might be watermelon from Agroform, and they might just do one thing really, really beautifully. And in the same way that wine comes from certain grapes grow well in certain areas, certain fruit and vegetables grow really beautifully in certain areas of Formentera, depending on the terrain, on the earth. So it's really nice if you're a bit of an adventurer to hop in your little dune buggy. Do hire a Mahari, the little Citroen dune buggies. They are the best way of getting around if you're not on a scooter or a bike. And you can just drop into all of these places, and they'll love to have you to explain where the foods come from. Maybe they'll cut open a tomato for you to taste and tell you a really lovely, maybe rosemary flecked cheese or something that it would go with, and you'll walk out of there with a smile on your face and a basket full of fantastic, really local, beautifully produced food. Likewise, the fish. If you see funny things hanging in trees, that's the pêche sec, which is fish drying. Historically, it's how local families would have used a glut of fish over the summer months. They skin and debone it and then strip it into long strips and hang it in trees. But you can see it. They still do it very much in the traditional way, and you'll see it draped in trees all around the island. It's an acquired taste, very salty, very savory. It's a little bit like the Portuguese salted cod. You'll find it crumbled on a lot of local dishes. It's used more as a flavor enhancer, I would say, or as an addition. The ensalada paisa, the local salad, particularly, it's a key ingredient in that. Likewise, around the island, you'll see signs for vineyards, the little brown signs. There are a couple of really significant ones, which are the Terra vineyard and the Cap de Barbaria, both which produce fantastic red wines, quite strong, rough, almost minerally in their flavor. Really, you can really taste, again, the terroir of the island. You taste that sort of primal, primitive feeling that Formentera still has, particularly its inland areas. And in terms of what to get up to when you're there. For me, it really is all about, I love the interior of the island. Carlos mentioned it. Exploring those little hidden caminos, the dusty lanes, the sort of interior backwaters, if you will. It's the heat and the scent and the dry stone walls and the lizards, and it's really it's super atmospheric. And I think perhaps nowhere better to take it all in than the little bar that you'll see in my slide there. It's called Fonda Pepe. It's in San Ferran, which is a smallish, I think the second largest, but still a small village, and it's the very center of the island. And it's the sort of bohemian center of the island. It's very laid back. You'll have children running barefoot in the street between this little bar and a pizzeria called Macondo, which is another absolute favorite. Fonda Pepe was the sort of center of the world in the 60s and 70s when, like I said, Pink Floyd and their sort of coterie were there, and it retains that really sparse, basic, primitive feeling that sort of Spanish bars do so well, with the long wooden bar and the sort of lone barman and the shelves packed with bottles behind the bar. It's really steeped in another era, and like so much of Formentera, it asks you to slow down. And I think that really is what the beauty of Formentera is for me, is that there's nothing to rush for. Nobody's going anywhere. Nothing's going anywhere. The island is very much suspended in a time bubble almost. And sitting outside somewhere like Fonda Pepe, you feel legitimately like you could be sitting there sort of 30 or 40 years ago. And I think so many places around the world now, they sort of tap into it almost like a faux bohemianism, but Formentera really has it. It's really got in its soul that easy, carefree, offbeat sort of feeling of the 1960s and 70s. And for me, it's magical. It puts me in a completely different mindset when I'm there, and I will never ever stop going back. If you do have a few moments though to get off the island, my tip would be to take the little ferry from Ietes, Playa Ietes, which is a very white sand beach, they're sort of probably the most famous beach, and a little ferry boat will take you across to Ses Palmador, which is a deserted sandbank, an islet almost, with water. It's staggering, and it has protected sand dunes in the interior of the island with mud springs, and you can go and spend the day there, cast away Robinson Crusoe vibe, just fill up a picnic basket, leave no trace, but take a picnic basket of ham and cheese and a bottle of wine, keep it cold in the water, and you could be in the Caribbean, you could be in South America. It's magical. It's a complete world apart, and long may it stay exactly that way. Thank you very much.
They are. Oh dear, what wonderful, evocative pictures you painted there. I think we were all entranced, and no, that was magical. And for you to say, as a travel writer, that it's your favourite place on the planet is really saying something. So that was terrific. I think you've probably all made us all very hungry as well, talking so much about the food. That was very mouthwatering. What sort of time of day do people eat there? I mean, is it like Spanish times or
very much, yeah. Late lunches on the beach, sort of, I guess, any time from 1 o'clock onwards, but lunch can very easily turn into supper. But supper, nobody's booking dinner tables before 9 p.m. So and then it's so balmy over there in the warm weather anyway that supper will go on sort of well into the early hours.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for that, and we'll see you back for the Q&A in a few minutes. Thank you, Maya. Right. Oh gosh. So yeah, that was evocative, wasn't it? And I think again we learnt so much. But I think one of the things that Formentera has become really famous for is it's very pure and crystal clear waters and a very rare and very special seagrass there. So before we speak to Manu, we're going to see a short video of the underwater. That was mesmerizing, wasn't it? So let's welcome back Manu, our biologist and diver and photographer extraordinaire. Manu, that was magical. So look really forward to hearing more from you about the underwater world. So over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be in this event. And always it's an honor for me to talk about Formentera, what I set up like 30 years ago. Okay, so first of all, I hope you enjoyed this very short dive we did. And now I'm in these few minutes, I will going to explain briefly why we have these wonderful waters in Formentera. So why we have this shore and these beaches, no? I remember the first time I came to Formentera, I had the feeling like going into a time machine, shooting back some decades, no? Looking how it was the Mediterranean, no? These crystal clear waters, those beaches, you know, that you were lying on the sand, and behind these no buildings in most of the places. You have dunes, and you have a wonderful Mediterranean forest, and in front you have this incredible crystal clear water. So why Formentera has this identity? Well, to understand this, we have to look through the surface, or if you want, and this is a place to do it, put on your Googles, snorkel, and you will see the wonders and why the explanation of why Formentera, the beaches, the shore, it is like we see. Okay, so we have one magical plant that is called Posidonia. And the Posidonia, the first Posidonia plant, this is not because I'm saying, it was a very important research done by the main research institution, and it was published worldwide that like 100,000 years ago, one Posidonia fruit arrived with the current, with the wind, and dropped a seed on the bottom, and from that first plant multiplied in millions, and now what we have is the oldest and largest organism alive in the planet. So the size of this meadow is 15 kilometers, and it is between Formentera and Ibiza, and this Posidonia plant that now we have all around Formentera and all around Balearic Islands. But we can say that in Formentera, the meadows are between the best representation of this seagrass. So the Posidonia meadows, it become, years ago, the first human heritage site in the Mediterranean Sea, and this is because the ecological process, okay? So the Posidonia is affecting to the water, is purifying and cleaning the waters, and also is building up reefs that we'll see in another slide. Is a carbon sink, and is doing an amazing contribution to sterilize the beaches. So if we have the water that we can enjoy in Formentera, it is because the contribution of this amazing plant. So a beach with Posidonia is a clean and pure beach. To have Posidonia is the best flag to say that we are in a healthy beach, in a clean and healthy beach. The Posidonia, because of these reefs that they are slowing down the waves, is is cleaning, because the sediment, the silt, is going down between the Posidonia reefs. Well, this photo I took 2 or 3 days ago, and it's if you have the opportunity to go today or tomorrow, this is how you are going to find the beaches. And this is what we see, these green olives. That is a beautiful process, is the Posidonia fruits. The Posidonia is not an algae, it's a plant. It's a plant that come from plants that were living on the earth 100,000 years ago, and with evolution they conquer again the marine habitat. So this plant has roots. At the end of the summer we have 1,000 millions of flowers, and is the way that the plant is using to disseminate and conquer all the bottom in the Mediterranean Sea. And going back again, is the color of the sand. This is one sign of the Posidonia beaches, is this pink sand that if you are on the beach and you are walking by the edge of the water, if you stop and you look from the close-up, the sand it's really a treasure, and you will recognize that the sand, this beautiful and wonderful sand, is coming from the skeletons of millions of organisms that are living inside the Posidonia forest, the Posidonia jungle. We're going to see that more than a meadow, it is a jungle. So this is another contribution of the Posidonia that is giving to Formentera the sand for the beaches. We have a kind of alive sand. And also another thing that the first time I saw, I was impressed, is these incredible natural monuments. You can see it's like a pearl underwater, and this is why Formentera is a very flat island, and in some places you will see that the beaches is like a finger, not high, very flat. And years ago I asked to myself how these beaches can be here in the middle of the sea, and when it's coming a storm, the beach is still there, it's not disappearing. Well, here is the explanation, is these amazing reefs that you can see. You have me as a reference, is 4 or 5 meters high, and this is incredible. It's built up by a plant. It's the only plant in the planet that is building reefs like this along thousands of years. And there's something that you can that you can see in some of the beaches, like for example Espujols, Illetas, and in front of the beach, if you go with your mask snorkeling, you will see these natural monuments that are inside this human heritage declaration. that UNESCO did. I think it was in 1999, yes. Well, but it's not only these contributions to have beautiful waters and wonderful beaches, but it's also the ecological contribution. And this is not affecting to tourism, but it's affecting to human beings. And we have to thank to Posidonia. Well, maybe you know that around the 70% of the oxygen we have in the atmosphere is coming from the seas. If you do a fast calculation of the oxygen that is released by this huge meadow that I have said that is between Formentera and Ibiza, you will see that is giving the oxygen to breathe to the entire population of Ibiza and Formentera. So we have, here is a loan for the planet, and for the Mediterranean. Also, is the most efficient carbon sink. The seagrass, this is something that we know since some years ago, is this is more efficient than a rainforest taking the CO2. So we have now an ally to fight against a problem that human beings we have created, that is the global warming. At the same time, is the biodiversity that is hosting. If you go with your mask and you're in the Posidonia, for the first look, you will see a meadow. But if you look inside, if you open with your hands, then you will see that it's more a jungle than a meadow, because you have hundreds of species that is living in the Posidonia. You have fishes, you have mollusks, bryozoans, well, many species, most of them that, for the biologists to identify, but it's wonderful to see the contribution of life and the contribution for the local gastronomy that the Posidonia has been doing, and it was giving the food for generations for the people that was living on these islands. Well, finishing is this is the scenario, is a perfect place with the best conditions to have, for the water sports, for kayaking, for snorkel, for paddle surf. And I think this photo is illustrating this. There is the crystal, calm, and warm waters that we have in Formentera. So, well, welcome all of you if you want to come and visit and discover and enjoy Formentera. I felt in love 30 years ago, and this is the reason why I chose this wonderful island to live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Manu. And that was just mind-blowing. And I had heard of Posidonia before. In fact, we have written about it in Wanderlust magazine. But that really brought it home, just how important and special it is. And gosh, absolutely incredible. So I'm sure we've all learned a lot from that tonight. So thank you so much. And for anybody watching, because I know a couple of people asked about seeing the video and the photographs again, we will be sending out a follow-up email, which will include a link to tonight's recording. So you'll be able to see that. And also, if you want to see more of Manu's photos, he is on Instagram. If you look at Manosan Felix, you'll find his photographs and footage there. And I do recommend doing that. So thank you, Manu. That was great. So can I welcome back Carlos and Maya? And we'll tackle some of your questions, because there have been a lot. And I know I certainly have so many questions myself. But I think, Carlos, although nobody's asked it in the chat box, I think COVID is obviously on people's minds. What is the situation in Formentera?
Related to COVID pandemic, numbers have been very, very low. We are very lucky in Ibiza and Formentera because, as I said, we are just 12,000 inhabitants, which is less one of 1,000, around something around 1,000 per village, because the most of us live in the countryside. What I mean with that is there are no big concentrations, which helps a lot with the transmission, and we have had in 2020 last year we had a more or less full season, summer season, which was perfect for us in order to implement all the protocols and all the hygienic measures in restaurants, in hotels, in all the industry, which means everything is start opening right now. Beaches are open, restaurants, and in the next few weeks maximum, everything will be set up for this summer season.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's been so much love in the chat box, so many people saying that it's so tempting and they wish they were there. Somebody saying they wish they were there now with a glass of wine. Yes, I agree. So, Maya, I don't know if this is one for you, but can you tell us something about the fab lobster dishes that are unique to Formentera?
Ooh, can I tell you about the lobster dishes? Well, lobster is very popular in Formentera. You have a lot of beach restaurants, particularly on the Yetes side, which are of the Yetes beach, which are really, I would say, world-renowned for their seafood, particularly places like Esmoli de Sal and Juan y Andrea. In terms of lobster dishes in particular, I would say that in my mind, Formentera is more closely associated with salt-baked fish than lobster, but perhaps I'm missing a trick there.
Okay, Carlos, have you got anything to add to that?
Well, of course, you can try lobster. Perhaps it's not the most frequent fish or mollusk or whatever to find in our waters. But as Maya said, which is traditional from the island, is to dry the fish on the wind, the salty wind, which is perfect to use it all year round. And you can find this, for example, in my favorite dish could be the peasant salad or ensalada payesa, which is an example of our, how local people was harvesting tomatoes, pepper, onions, and so on, because it was the only thing they got in the island previous to the arrival of the tourism industry.
Yeah, sure. And Manu, lots of questions about the snorkeling. So is it possible to snorkel from the beach? Can you just go straight out from the beach?
Yes, definitely. I was trying to answer on the chat because, and I'm very happy and thank you everyone for the interest and for all your words to our trip. And of course, about the snorkeling, it's an amazing place. I have 3 kids, and since they were 1 year old, they were snorkeling, and from the beach and tiny coves, you have wonderful sights. And it's a place that the water is very comfortable, what I have said before, because the temperature, because the visibility, and because normally we have a very calm sea. And one very good thing is because Formentera is a small island, in summer, normally with the good weather, we have the wind from the east. And if it is a bit rough, then it's very easy to go to the other side of the island and you will find like a swimming pool, completely calm.
Yeah. Oh, God, that sounds very inviting for those of us who sadly can't dive. Carlos, can you tell us a little bit more, first of all, about the green routes? Are they quiet back roads or are they footpaths? Would you meet cars, for instance, on the green routes?
Although rarely thought as an ecotourism destination, Balearic Islands and of course Formentera offer great hiking and wildlife opportunities, tours, and bird watching sightseeing, because we have more than 200 species of birds that pass through Formentera on the way to Africa. And then it's perfect for practicing this kind of activities, following one of these 32 wind routes. As we said, in total is a network of more than 130 kilometers, which is a lot in a small island. And it's a perfect way in order to get to know the most unknown part, which is inland part of Formentera, because as you have been seeing during this presentation, Formentera is much more than San Encino.
No, absolutely. And no, sounds like there's a lot to explore. And Maya, have you got any recommendations for somebody with small children, anywhere in particular to stay or any activities?
Yes, absolutely. I find hotel-wise in Formentera, the best places for me over the years, and we travel there a lot, my children are 6, 4 and 2, are on Michon Beach, which is opposite side of the island to Yetes. It's the less touristy side of the island. It's the less day tripper side of the island. And you have these fantastic sort of beach bungalow type complexes. Couple that spring to mind are Talaya, Apartamentos Talaya, and Las Dunas Playa. And they're very low key, little beach bungalows. They'll be sort of set around like a little communal bar, restaurant, open air. Maybe there's a little lazy ceiling fan, a bit of a bar for the grown-ups, but you're literally tumbling out into the dunes. And they've all got a little kitchenette and a little barbecue and a little, private space outside. And for me, it's this kind of low-key, very connected to the element side of Formentera that the families love.
Oh, that sounds great. And presumably it's a very safe from that point of view for families as well.
Very few cars there and no crowds. So you know, in terms of like rowdy crowds. So
yeah. No, exactly. Now, one or two people have expressed concern. This is probably for Carlos. 1 or 2 people have expressed concern about are there crowds? Is there any danger of over tourism? Somebody mentioned about day trippers from Ibiza. Is this an issue at all, or is it a case of going outside of August, for instance?
Well, there are not so many concentrations, as we have 69 kilometers of coastline, which means you can arrive to the beach and choose where to stay. We don't have like a parking, a specific place for elder people or for young people, or with different projects we have seen in other beach destinations and summer destinations. And that is to say, it's safe to move around. We are following all of us these kind of protocols and hygienic things to do related to COVID, because we are very, very proud of our island, but of course we are realistic, and we know all of us live thanks to the tourism industry.
Okay. And is it possible to hire boats? I would have thought so, surely. Yes. Good. Nice and full. Carlos, one for you. What kind of flowers do you get in the spring? You mentioned flowers.
Wow.
We don't need a big, but
very Mediterranean flora, like pine trees, flowers, plenty of them, margaritas and so on, which have been telling that the spring could be one of my preferred season. It's all year round, because springtime, it's like you have flowers everywhere, everything smells. You can enjoy, of course, the silence of the island, but also the smells, because sometimes we are all in a rush and we don't smell, we don't listen, and that's why we encourage visitors to use this kind of noisy vehicles, such as bicycle, of course on foot, but also electrical vehicles such as cars, motorbikes, which ensure you a unique experience and plenty of pleasure sensations.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I see that Manu has put in the chat as well about the crowds, about it's only, I guess, the second half of July, and in August it gets a bit crowded. So I think, let's stay outside of those regions. We like the idea of seeing the spring flowers more, I think. Somebody's asking about the general cost of living on the island. Anybody give any ideas on that?
Well, I can start with that because to be realistic, it's not a cheap destination. No, sometimes I received the tourism during the 60s. Some journalists has called the island a hippie chic destination, no? Because it's quite exclusive. Of course, we can find apartments and villas May, June, September, October, avoiding our main season, July and August, that have very affordable rates. And but the rest of the living in Formentera is not so cheap that could be. But well, it's the only way to protect the island, and this kind of visitors do love this kind of sustainable destinations.
Yeah, I think that's.
Sorry, I was going to say one thing to add there is that it's really not a destination where you have to be going out all the time and consuming in a restaurant or this kind of thing. You know, having a picnic on the beach or stopping in a little roadside olive oil shop or that kind of thing, you can be really simple and basically just enjoy the very simple produce of the island without having to, you know, dine at flashy places and things.
Exactly. And I think that's what's really come over, you know, staying in family run places and, like you say, eating the local produce. It comes over as a very sustainable destination and very good quality destination as well. I think that's really come through. And in fact, Maya, have you got any other kind of tips, you know, that you would give? Because as somebody who has traveled, obviously, the world so much as a travel writer. Yeah.
Yes, explore the interior of the island. That's my biggest tip. Like I said before, Ietes Beach is where you're going to get all your day trippers from Ibiza who come in and then they spend all day on the beach, eating the restaurants, and then they leave again. So get away, experience that by all means. Absolutely beautiful. But get a little scooter, get a bicycle. The island is super flat. It's absolutely tiny. And just explore the interior. There are little dusty caminos, there are olive groves, there are vineyards, there are little villages. That's the really authentic heart of the island. Read about the island. There's a fantastic book called My Formentera, which is a really great local guide by a girl called Joris Vogelberg, who grew up in Ibiza. And don't set yourself an agenda. Just go and see where you end up, because you're never going to be far from where you're staying. It's too small. It's only 19 kilometers from top to bottom. So.
Oh, thank you so much for that. So, in fact, Manu and Collis, I'll ask you in a minute as well if you have any closing words of any tip or advice before we finish, because we are going to have to wrap up in a moment, I'm afraid. We are running out of time. As a reminder to everybody watching, we will be sending up the follow-up email, and we will put a good few useful links and tips in there. And some of the places that have been mentioned tonight, we'll mention, for instance, in there, the book that Maya just recommended, because that sounds really good as well. And I think before I wind up, I'd just like to say what has really come over for me this evening is you three speakers who are both brilliant. We've had, you know, you're all brilliant. We've had so much great feedback. But you've all fallen in love with Formentera, haven't you? You have all chosen to make it your home, and you love it with a passion. And that passion has really come through. So that says a lot. So amazing. So Carlos, have you got, if you're going to give one or two little tips just to finish on for anybody?
Well, Formentera remains an island largely devoted to good life, which means slow mood, slow food, disconnection, family moments, in such a beautiful landscapes, pristine seas. And to get lost, to find yourself in such a small piece of land is easy. And then I believe we all we deserve this. More in this kind of a pandemic, we all have to.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. Thank you for that. Somebody has asked, can we put details about the buses? So I think in the follow-up email. So we'll put something in about transport. I think that will be really useful. Anyway, thank you, Carlos. And Manu, have you got any final words, a top tip or a recommendation when people visit Formentera, the place you have fallen in love with?
I would say only that if you want to relax, to enjoy time, because this is a place where you feel, and as soon as you step on the island, you feel that you are on a different place. But if you are coming, be aware that the risk is that you would like to stay here.
What a wonderful way to finish. Well, this has been a complete joy this evening. And as you can see, we've got a lot of love from the people watching. So thank you so much to all three of you. You have really inspired and engaged us this evening. So thank you so much from all of us who've watched. And yes, we hope to meet you in Formentera. Okay, good evening. Thank you very much, everybody who watched, and we'll look out for that follow-up email. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.